10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Scovan's 8th Annual International Women's Day celebration. I want to start this off by thanking our amazing ladies in the commercial team, Lindsay, Juanita, for organizing this, and everybody else who has contributed to organizing this event. Thank you, ladies. I promise to keep this short, because never in my life I've heard anybody say that I wish the speech was longer, at least not me. So I feel like every year this event gives us the opportunity to pause, not necessarily slow down or stop, but reflect and recognize the amazing achievements we've made and recommit to moving forward with intention. This year's theme, Give to Gain, kind of made me think about something very simple. None of us here today got where we are alone. We all had, at a certain point, somebody who believed in us, who offered mentorship, who offered opportunities, support, collaboration, or simply believed we could do something that we even thought we could. Those moments are the moments that matter. Those are the moments that make or help shape the people that we are today. And those are the moments that help shape how we do the same for the next generation. In one of my favorite speeches from Serena Williams, she once said, "The success of every woman should be the inspiration of another. We should lift each other up as we're strongest when we cheer each other on." And I think this sits at the heart and the core of what today represents. Energy and engineering, I feel like they're industries that are built on resilience. Markets shift, things change every day, technologies evolve, challenges come and go. Most of the time they come and they forget to go. So what helps organizations move forward is how we show up, not only for our work, not only for our teams, but most importantly for each other. When women thrive in these industries, this helps companies become smarter, stronger, more resilient, more forward-looking, more innovative. Today is about continuing that momentum, recognizing the growth and the progress that we've made, but most importantly, set the bar higher each day so we can help set the path for the younger generation. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. For all the amazing women, thank you for being a key component to this progress. For the women of Scovan, thank you for the amazing support that you've given me the past 2 years, but most importantly, for how you show up every day for each other. Thank you all, and with that, let's get this started.
I'd like to acknowledge the land we are gathered on today. For generations, Indigenous peoples have cared for this land, guided by deep respect, stewardship, and connection to community. Today, we honor that enduring relationship and recognize our shared responsibility to continue learning, listening, and building a more respectful future together. At Scovan, our values remind us to work hard, figure it out, and challenge ourselves to do better. Reconciliation asks the same of us, to approach this work with humility, curiosity, and action. It requires collaboration, understanding, and the willingness to grow together. We are grateful to gather here today and to commit to continuing this journey with respect and intention.
Okay, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Claire Masikewich. So Claire is a marketing and communications leader at marketing and development at GeoVera, which is a company that has previously been a part of our Scovan International Women's Day. Today she'll share insights from that journey and explore how she can navigate challenges and shift our perspective, both in our personal and professional lives, and how we show up with intention as we do that. So with that, please join me in welcoming Claire.
Do I just take this out myself? Yes? Okay, thank you. Didn't know if I needed someone else, a professional. I'll break it. There we go. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for having me here today. And yes, the company that I am with now, we sponsored one of the events, I think in 2021, 2022. And I believe I saw a post that this is the 8th, Lindsay, is this the 8th annual? Incredible event that Scovan has put on for International Women's Day. And I will say that's amazing because so many companies just talk about International Women's Day, but to actually do something is completely different. And I remember being at that event in 2021 or 2022, and I saw the speaker that was there, and I can't remember who it was, powerhouse of a woman. I want to say she was in like the transportation industry. She talked about sea cans. I can't quite remember. But she stood up there, and she was such a powerhouse. And I thought, what a cool opportunity. But I could never do that. Like I saw this and thought I could never do that. And here I am today. So full circle event, really excited to be here. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm here for myself just as much as I am here for you. And the reason why is because I love storytelling. I find it to be very therapeutic. Something that's very healing about writing words on a page or sharing stories out loud just allows me to let it all go, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm gonna switch here. But the one time I remember in my adult years actually writing a story was around the day my baby was born. You guessed it, I wrote her entire birth story from start to finish. The tears, the screams, the laughter, the woman next door that sounded like a moose giving birth. Don't ask me how I know what that sounds like, it just feels like the best analogy to use. But the moment I wanted to remember the most was the moment my baby was placed in my arms. The first thing we checked for was if it was a boy or a girl. We had a girl born on September 23rd, 2017, and we named her Sloane Audrey. The second thing we checked for was if she had 10 fingers, check. 10 toes, check. And when that heel prick came back that all the little babies get, and it came back completely clear, my husband and I could breathe a sigh of relief. We had a healthy baby girl. Sure, it wouldn't all be smooth sailing. There'd be the sleepless nights, the terrible twos, those awkward teenage years where your kid starts to hate you and you hope one day they come back to loving you again. But overall, smooth sailing and a long, healthy life. And that was our story too. Or at least I thought it was. Until my daughter was 5.5 years old and I found myself watching my husband shave my daughter's head. But let's back it up a little bit to May 2023. May long weekend, we were in Sylvan Lake as we are for most long weekends as a family, but this one was a little bit different for a couple of reasons. One, the weather was beautiful. Anyone who has spent much time in Alberta knows that May long weekend is usually either raining or snowing, but the girls were in their shorts playing in the lake. It was incredible. The second thing that was different was that Sloane was incredibly tired, like napping tired, which was completely unheard of for my 5.5-year-old. She was also complaining about pain in her pelvic region, which I just chalked up to be growing pains because that's what my oldest daughter experienced around that age too. So we went on the weekend though, everything was fine, the girls were having fun, and then on the Monday we got home and Sloane spiked a fever. Aha, a fever, aches, pains, it's the flu. It's gotta be the flu, right? That's what I thought. So we kept her home from school all week. We did the Advil and Tylenol dance as parents do. And on the Friday, we decided to call 811 because Sloane's pain was getting so bad. It had spread from her pelvic region to her legs to her knees. And at some point, it got so bad, she was pulling herself up the stairs using the banister. So we called 811 and talked to a nurse. And right away, she passed me over to a physician. And he said, a fever with no other signs or symptoms of cold or flu and bilateral leg pain is cause for alarm. Now, it wasn't a rush to the children's hospital right now, but he said, get there in the next 24 hours. So we packed up some snacks, got the iPad loaded with the Mario movie. I wish we had loaded more because we watched that about 10 times in the hospital. Loaded it up and headed to the children's. We waited for several hours, but eventually we got pulled into the back, and a doctor came in, did some leg strength tests, and she ordered blood work. And in that moment, I was like, thank goodness, we're here for something. She's ordering blood work. We didn't waste our time. But she didn't just order one round of blood work. She ordered another round. And in that moment, I thought, okay, this has got to be sepsis or meningitis. That was my worst case scenario. Sepsis or meningitis. Still two incredibly scary things for any parent. Around 1:30 in the morning, she came back into the room and she pulled me out to the hall. But then she took me around a corner and she sat me down on a big black comfy couch. I didn't know they had those things at hospitals, but they do for these kind of conversations. So I thought, okay, it's a comfy couch kind of conversation here. She shared that Sloane's hemoglobin and platelets were considerably low and that we would be admitted and referred to hematology. Around 7:30 that morning, my husband and my oldest daughter arrived on Unit 2 where we were admitted, and in walked Dr. Kyle, the pediatric hematologist. He got down to business right away. There was no small talk. Right away, he asked 3 red flag questions. What do you do for work? Do you have good benefits? Do you have friends or family close by? But it wasn't until I heard the word malignant, over and over and over in that conversation that I thought, holy crap, I think I know what this is. We asked Dr. Kyle to step out in the hallway, and I said, I just wanted to confirm what you're talking about is cancer. And he said, yes. If there is anything that will change a parent's life in an instant, it is hearing the word cancer beside your child's name. But she had 10 fingers. She had 10 toes. She was healthy. I checked. Over the next few days, my daughter went through more procedures than I think a lot of adults will go through in their entire lifetime. And they all landed us on a stage 4 neuroblastoma diagnosis, an aggressive form of pediatric cancer. After a couple of days, my husband and I composed ourselves and figured out how we were going to tell the girls that Sloane had cancer. And when we did, Sloane asked me, Mommy, why did I get cancer? And that is an incredibly hard question to answer. I don't know why any kid gets cancer. But I answered her with this. Sometimes bad things happen to good people to prove to them they are capable of handling hard things. And that's exactly what we did. It was in those first few weeks that I realized something that would really set the tone for how I would handle the next 18 to 36 months. I couldn't control Sloane's cancer, and I couldn't control her treatment, but I could control 3 powerful things: my thoughts, my community, and my actions. But today, for the sake of time and spirit of International Women's Day, I wanted to focus on 2 that really give us the most power to move forward, starting with community. Motivational speaker and author Jim Rohn says, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now, normally this quote is used to encourage people to surround themselves with people who are smarter, more successful than them. But today I'm talking about surrounding yourself with people who see the glass as half full. People who bring you energy when you need it and bring you peace when your world feels chaotic. But you're not just finding those people. You're also attracting them. The energy that you put out into the world is the same energy you bring back in. If you're a positive person, you're going to attract more positive people. Sometimes negative people get back in, but that's okay. We can kick them out later. But generally speaking, your energy attracts the same energy back. Your vibe attracts your tribe. But you have to stop waiting for an invitation. You have the power to cultivate the community that you need. I think it was about a week ago. I actually don't know the timing, but a week or so ago, actor Eric Dane passed away from ALS. And I actually did this talk on Monday, and I got really emotional with the Eric Dane piece. I don't know why. I don't know this guy. I wish I did. He seemed like an incredible human being. But I think it's because when I was pregnant with Sloan, my husband and I watched Grey's Anatomy for 7 months straight. We watched like 1 or 2 episodes every single night. And believe it or not, that's where we got the name Sloan. If you were familiar with Grey's Anatomy, Dr. Mark Sloan. So I think that's why I was emotional. But he did this really great documentary with Netflix. And on social media, you may have seen it, floating around was this clip where Eric shared 4 life lessons for his 2 daughters who are 11 and 13. And this one really stuck with me. He said, be a good friend and choose your friends wisely. When Eric was on the height of his career, he was surrounded by other celebrities. He would go golfing and he would go to restaurants and other fancy events with all of his friends. But then when he was diagnosed with ALS, there was a time where he didn't even want to leave his house. He couldn't leave his house. And he was so grateful that he had friends that showed up to sit with him, to read to him, to listen to music with him. Those are the friends that matter. Real friends don't leave when life gets uncomfortable. They show up. Think about your inner circle. The 5 people you spend the most time with. Are these the people who will celebrate your wins and show up when life feels like riding the old yellow school bus, not just the limo? If someone can't celebrate your victories and stand by you during the tough times, you need a new support system. Now, I often tell this story, and I have a friend here in the audience, and she's going to smile and look at me and laugh. I told this friend who is here today that when she was dating this guy, he was a bit of a loser, I'm not going to lie. I said to her, the longer you're with the wrong person, the longer it will take to find the right person. And the same thing applies to our friendships. As we get older, I don't know about you, I'm turning 40 in July. I don't know if that's old. Well, I think it's over middle age. So anyways, I find that I have less and less energy to give in my relationships. And quality matters a lot more than quantity. Get rid of the toxic people in your life. They're not serving you. Now let's talk about what happens when you keep your feelings all bottled up inside. The more you bottle them up, the more they can have control over you. There's a really great book called Ruby Finds a Worry. It's a kid's book. My girls have it. And it's about this little girl who holds on to her worries. And the more she holds on to them, the bigger they get. And as soon as she shares them, her worries shrink. Now, this might be a kid's book, but the lesson applies to all of us. So, the next time you are feeling frustrated, sad, angry, sad, worried, whatever it may be, go on a 5-minute vent and pivot. Now, I always have to draw your attention to this word pivot for a second. Just for a second, I'm going to digress. There are 2 very different groups of people. When I say the word pivot, the first group over here is probably more business-minded. They think about COVID. The word pivot was used over and over during COVID. We're going to pivot our business strategy, show to market, how we're showing up with clients and team members. And then there's this other group of people. When they hear the word pivot, they think of a popular TV show. I'm hoping I get some people who know what I'm talking. Okay, yeah, I see some nods and some laughter. Okay, Friends? Anyone? Ross? There's an episode of Friends where Ross is stuck in the stairwell with this big couch, and he's like, pivot, pivot. Anyways, I digress. It has nothing to do with this. But the 5-minute vent and pivot. Find someone you trust. This isn't about gossiping. This isn't about finding your friends and gossiping about people behind their backs. Find someone you trust. Share your feelings. Go on a frustration rant for 5 minutes, but no more. And then shift the conversation. Sometimes just that practice of sharing our feelings, even for 5 minutes, is enough to let them go. When you share, you give your worries and frustrations less control. You also give others permission to be vulnerable in return. It creates connection, the kind that reminds you, you are not alone. Everyone in this room has faced some sort of a challenge, whether it's health, work, finances, relationships. It's what connects us as humans. One of the biggest things you can do that gives you power to survive during hard times is by taking control of your actions. Your actions impact your ability to thrive through hard times. You have to build a foundation, choose how you want to show up, and lean into your strengths. Before you can show up for anyone else, your friends, your kids, your partner, your coworker, you have to show up for you first. Not as an afterthought, not after everyone else is taken care of, but as the foundation for everything else. We've been conditioned to believe that being a good mom, dad, partner, employee, leader means putting ourselves last. Or if not last, certainly second or third. But that's the biggest lie we've been told. The truth? The best thing you can do for everyone who depends on you is to prioritize yourself. When you are rested, you're more patient. When you're happy, you're more fulfilled. When you set boundaries, you teach everyone else around you to do the same. I'm just going to take a water break. 1 sec. Sorry, I tried to get through without water. I would chew gum, but that's really rude. Prioritizing yourself isn't selfish, it's strategic. It's how you create a life where everyone thrives, starting with you. So, how do you build a solid foundation now so you're set up for when things get hard? Whatever you do, it needs to be sustainable. I don't recommend that in order for you to be okay, you tell yourself that you have to run a half marathon every day, or show up at get up at 5 a.m. and meditate for an hour, because that might always be possible when life is hard. Whatever you do, it has to be sustainable. And I wanted to share a podcast that I listened to a few weeks ago, The Diary of a CEO. I don't know if anyone's ever listened to that one before. It's fantastic. They have great guests. But one of the guests that was on was James Clear, who is the author of Atomic Habits. It was a really good one. And he talked about the value of habits and sustainability, and that consistency matters more than effort when it comes to our habits and our daily practices. And what he talked about was changing the scope, not the schedule, when life gets hard. So, for an example, if you decide that in order to be a resilient person, you need to do 100 sit-ups every night. I don't know why you would do this or why you would choose this. Not my choice, but maybe that's it for you. So you decide this is what you need to do. But then all of a sudden, Thursday rolls around, and it was a really long day at work, and you have priorities coming your way that you don't have control over. You get home, you're supposed to be eating dinner, but you don't have time for dinner. You have to get the kids to activities. You get the kids to the activities. You get home, and it's 8 o'clock at night, everyone's eating dinner, get the kids off to bed, and then all of a sudden, it's 9:30 at night. And you would rather just sit on the couch and do nothing. So you think, forget about those 100 sit-ups. I don't have time for those 100 sit-ups. I'm exhausted. But here's what happens. As soon as you let that habit go one night, it's a lot easier to make that excuse for yourself that it's okay to let it go the next night and the next night and the next night. So James Clear, to bring it back to him, says change the scope, not the schedule with your habits. So instead of doing 100 sit-ups that night, you do 10. Change the scope, not the schedule, because it'll be a lot easier to bounce back into that habit and into that routine if you don't completely abandon it. There are so many small things that we can do to set ourselves up with a resiliency routine, both mentally and physically. I would actually have my mom or my mother-in-law, my husband, my sister, my best friend come to the hospital, even on the really hard days with Sloan, and they would sit with her while I ran the 5-kilometer route that I had mapped out between the Alberta Children's Hospital, the Foothills Hospital, and University District. And even when I didn't feel like doing that, when I was exhausted, I would go and run a kilometer or 2, or I would just walk for half an hour, or I'd go outside and I would just stand and look at the sunshine. I actually would take my shoes off. I don't know if anyone's into grounding. I probably look like the crazy lady outside of the Children's Hospital with my shoes off, staring into the sun. So that was me. But I would do that because I was a better mom, caregiver, and advocate for it. But I changed the scope, not the schedule, even when I was tired. First of all, this is not my entire resiliency routine. I probably don't do half of the things on here. I just share it to provide some ideas of what you can do and what you can add to your daily routine that are pretty easy. But I don't need to tell you that you should drink more water, or that you should move your body, Or you should eat more protein. I don't know, as women, we're forced to eat protein now. Like, there's so many things coming at me all over social media that we need to eat more protein. If they would just put it in wine, I would be okay. Eat more protein. But I don't need to tell you these things. We're all adults. But one of the most overlooked components to resiliency is actually rest and recovery. Rest and recovery. Again, I was listening to another podcast. This one, I don't know who it was because it was a couple of years ago and I didn't take note of it. But there was a guy on there that said, in order to properly recover from stress, we need an equal amount of recovery time as we have stress. Now, unless there is a secret millionaire in the room that wants to send me to Hawaii to lie on a beach for 3 years, I don't think that's possible. I don't think it's realistic to say that we need to have the same amount of recovery as we do stress. It's not realistic. But rest and recovery is essential for our survival. There's something that happens when we rest. I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but it's called neuroplasticity. And it's where, when we rest, our brain actually creates new neural pathways and allows us to learn, to grow, and to heal. It is essential for our survival. For a while there, we had this hustle culture where everyone was having side hustles, and your amount of busyness and the emails and the meetings that you were in equaled how successful you were. But I love to see that we're coming full circle, and I think that we have a revolution happening around rest and recovery, and we understand that in order to be a productive, successful person, we also need to rest. It is really important to remember that your ability to cope changes day to day and season to season, and you need to give yourself grace when you need that time. The other thing you have control over when things are hard is that you get to choose how you want to show up. Something you often hear from people who are going through difficult times when asked how they're handling it is, "I had no choice." But I call bullshit. Pardon my language. You do have a choice on how you get to show up. Sure, you have to eat and you have to sleep, and if you have kids, you should probably feed them too, but you get to choose how you want to show up when things are hard. Now, this is the part where I really want to level set, and I want to share a few things with you, because you're probably thinking, oh, well, this Claire girl, she just seems like a positive person, and she's always been positive, and she's always been able to handle and cope through these hard things, but that is so far from the truth. I suffered from so much anxiety as a kid. I remember, probably until grade 3 or grade 4, physically being pulled off of my mom in tears at school drop-off. I didn't have my first successful sleepover until I was in grade 8. And then when I was 19 or 20, I planned to go to University of Lethbridge for school. We moved me there. We had an apartment. We bought all of this furniture, and I cried for a week. I lasted a week before I begged my parents to come pick me up and bring me home. And my parents were at a talk that I did on Tuesday, so I didn't say this, but I'm going to say it today. That did not serve me well. Don't go rescue your kids like that. It screws them up later in life. I did not say that on Tuesday. They would have been so mad at me. And then even in my mid to late 20s, I had so much anxiety around work that my mom would actually come and meet me downtown for lunch just to get me through the day. So I share those things with you to show you how much anxiety I had and to show you that it's capable to get through those kind of things. So somewhere along the line, when Sloan was diagnosed, I learned to adopt the mindset, it's not good, it's not bad, it just is. It just is. I had to, in order to survive and to thrive through those hard times. But those are all words. It's not bad, it's not good, it just is. Cool, cool, cool. But how do you want things to be different? You get the choice to choose a different career, a different path, a different outcome, a different relationship, and you also get to choose to see challenges as opportunities for growth. When Sloan was first diagnosed with cancer, I started looking into ways that I could help support the pediatric cancer community. But as I got further down the research path, I came to the same conclusion. Very little funding goes into pediatric cancer research. In fact, only 7% of cancer research funding in Canada goes to pediatrics, yet it's the #1 cause of death by disease in kids. This is crazy. So this is what else I did. I leaned into what else was in my control. using my strengths as a marketing professional to raise awareness for pediatric cancer. I honestly couldn't figure out why Sloan got cancer, but I knew I'd be doing the world a disservice if I didn't use my skills and abilities to make a difference. These are the things that are in your control. The skills, the qualities, the habits that come naturally to you. The things that you can use to refill your confidence bank when things feel heavy or uncertain. Because each small win, each small success builds momentum for the next one. And before you know it, you've built a string of better days. So when it was really late at night, 1 a.m., and I probably should have been sleeping in the hospital when Sloan was asleep, instead I was sitting there and I was stewing about all the things I couldn't control, her cancer, the treatment, going to Dr. Google, which I don't recommend, and looking into clinical trials, and I realized that that wasn't serving me. It wasn't serving me at all. So, if I'm being quite honest, I started this as a distraction. I did what marketers do. I created a brand. Strong Like Sloan. At first, it was just hats and toques and other Instagram-worthy stuff. But as I got more and more into it, I realized that this didn't exhaust me. It energized me, knowing I could make a difference. I'm good at social media. I'm good at branding. I'm good at networking. I use my skills to do some pretty big things. And I don't share that to brag, but I share it as proof that through action, we can do incredible things. One of the initiatives that I'm most proud of was the Strong Like Sloan run team. So backing up to May 2023, the same weekend that Sloan was diagnosed with cancer, both of my girls were supposed to run the kids race at the 2023 Calgary Marathon. That's also why we went to the hospital on the Friday. I didn't wait till Saturday or Sunday because I was like, okay, well, Saturday we're going to go to race package pickup, and Sunday you girls are running a race. But cancer had a different idea, so they did not do that. So fast forward a year later, I didn't want to sit in sadness and pity the diagnosis weekend, so I decided to put together a run team. And at first I thought it would just be a few of my run friends and we'd raise a few $1,000s, but we ended up having 185 people on our run team, one of the biggest run teams the Calgary Marathon has ever seen, and we raised over $112,000 for pediatric cancer research. And then a year later, fast forward, 2025, we raised $166,000. This is the only pitch I'm putting here for Strong Like Sloan. I put the QR code in yesterday, and I was like, I'm going to do this QR code thing. Anyways, if you want to join our run team, I just say that because Scovan is actually one of our run shirt sponsors this year, which is so incredible. So grateful to have that support because we have everybody on our run team gets these matching shirts, and it looks so cool. This year, we're doing pink shirts. So if you want to join our team, you don't have to run a full marathon. You can walk 5 kilometers, run 10, do a half, do a full. There's kids races. It's a lot of fun. If you want to join, you have to sign up by April 10th because we order our shirts early. It's not until May 23rd, 24th. So come see me after if you want more information. And on August 28th, 2024, Strong Like Sloan became an official charitable organization in the province of Alberta, and in less than 2 years, we raised over $387,000 for pediatric cancer. This is proof of how powerful you can be when you lean into your strengths and you choose how you want to show up, even when things are hard. Now, this is another quote. There's Eric Dane and Jane Goodall. I really need to put some living people in here. But this was floating around a few months ago when Jane Goodall passed away. And it's an incredible quote. This is the only time I am going to read a slide. I'll read it over here because I don't want to get it wrong. You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. As women, mentors, allies, you have an incredible opportunity. With that comes a lot of responsibility, but an incredible opportunity. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all the men in the room today. I have been to a few of these events and done a few of these keynotes, and this is the biggest group of men I've seen at an International Women's Day event. So thank you for being here, because it means a lot to have you here too. Everybody here in this room is shaping the future for the next generation of female leaders. And outside of your normal job, every interaction, every email, every connection, every conversation, you have the power to make a difference. Okay, let's bring this thing home. Spin bikes. Don't worry, we're not doing any spinning today. There is no interactive component to this. My husband always gets mad at me if I'm like, I'm going to get everyone to high five. And he's like, don't get everyone to high five. They're going to hate you. We're not high fiving today. Anyways, so I was at a spin class in February. We do this other initiative called Heartbeats for Hope. I go to spin class once a year for Heartbeats for Hope. And in a spin class, most spin classes, there's a part where the instructor calls a climb, or at least that's what I have called it. And it's where the lights are low, the music is slower, and the instructor asks you to turn the resistance up as much as you can tolerate. And here's what happens. It's actually easier to get up in your seat than to stay seated. You can stay seated for a few seconds, but it's not sustainable. Your legs will be on fire if you do that. It's actually easier to show up, to stand up, than to stay seated in the hard for too long, just like in real life. Hard is telling your daughter she has cancer. Not once, but twice. Sloan relapsed last April. Hard is watching your daughter fight for her life. Hard is watching your girls play and trying to comprehend how your oldest would ever live without her little sister and her best friend. I get it. Everything that I talked about today is hard. It's not easy. This all takes hard work, making conscious choices, choosing to show up when life is difficult, getting rid of toxic people in your life. It's all hard work. But I'm here to tell you, my friends, that you cannot ChatGPT your life or Copilot, whatever you use. You can't do it. You can ask ChatGPT for strategies on how to move forward, how to get through business, how to get through each day. But it's your responsibility to put one foot in front of the other and choose how you want to show up every single day. But you know what's harder than all of that? It is harder living a life of sadness, of why me, being negative, always stewing about things that are out of your control. This is a lot harder. It doesn't matter if it's a cancer diagnosis or an everyday challenge, the concept is still the same. Let go of what you can't control and control what you can. Your thoughts, your community, and your actions. When we give our energy to things that we can control, we gain a whole lot of peace. And with that peace actually comes a lot of power. The power to make a difference, the power to drive change, the power that drives us one step closer to gender equality. It's an easy concept, so why do we struggle to put it into play when things get hard? It's because we need to make these things a habit now before things get hard. Expecting to build a new habit in the middle of a crisis is like learning to swim in a storm. Can you imagine being thrown into icy waters without ever having learned how to swim? That's what it's like developing new habits like stress management and gratitude practice when life is chaotic. I encourage you to do something that challenges you every day. Because the more we do something, the easier it gets. Hard stuff doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. It's like personal training for your brains. The habits we build today reinforce how we show up tomorrow. Don't wait until you have a life-altering event. Don't wait until you're faced with grief. Don't wait until you burn out. I encourage you to make that shift today. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. My name is Blair Nielsen, and I want to thank you, Claire, just for that incredibly inspiring speech. There were two things that stood out for me in that. One is, what are we in control of? And start there. It's a good place to start. And the second thing is, we are the average of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with. So I have good news. The 5 people that we are going to surround ourselves with today means we are going to be in pretty good shape for today. So as the panel starts to make their way up here, I'll just introduce who is in our panel here today. Claire is going to be joining our panel. as we have already met and has been introduced. So thank you, Claire, for joining us here. Brianne O'Reilly is with the COO of the International CCS Knowledge Center, who is spearheading initiatives to further carbon capture, storage, and CCUS. Thank you. Mind blank right there. Thank you. Alicia Olsen, who will be joining us this afternoon as well, who is an Olympic bobsledder who has, she was the first ever pilot of a 4-person bobsled with 4 women at an international race. So it's a privilege to have you join with us. And we've had the privilege of sponsoring Alicia in the past as well as a Scovan sponsored athlete. And Jane will be joining us as well. Jane is the VP of Operations here at Scovan, who has been played an integral role of helping Scovan to be where we are today. And our moderator for today is Stephanie DeMaio. Thank you, Stephanie, for being our moderator. Stephanie is an EIT who we have the privilege of working with at Scovan as well. So thank you all for joining us here today. Please join with me in giving them a round of applause.
Thanks, Blair, and thank you, panel, for joining us here today. I'm really excited for this discussion. So as we know, the theme of the International Women's Day is Give to Gain. I would love to start out by asking, what does International Women's Day mean to you, and what does the idea of giving to gain mean? Does someone have a microphone? Oh, there we go.
Oh my goodness. I also wanted to say that I'm feeling like I can't put my legs like this because my socks are gray, and I'm very embarrassed. They should be white. So anyway, so I'm just going to call it. I'm going to put it out there. My socks are gray. They should be white. Now you see them. Okay. I guess I can start since I have the mic. International Women's Day has always been such an incredible day, and I feel like it should be more than one day, but it's great. We are here having these conversations, and we don't just have to celebrate it on March 8th. But being in the room on an International Women's Day event is really cool because I feel like there's a lot of support, there's a lot of love. Everybody's here for the same reason. And I'm not going to lie, when I first heard the theme Give to Gain this year, I felt a bit icky about it because I was like, wait, we're supposed to give selflessly. We're not supposed to be gaining something from it. But I took it in a different way. And for me, it's about when we give back as women and we give back as mentors and as allies, we gain so much in return. And I really believe that wholeheartedly. And I felt that through my entire journey over the last few years, and community has been such a big piece. So for me, International Women's Day is about understanding that there is enough sunshine for everybody, and it's all about collaboration over competition. So for me, it's how we create that community allows us to give back, and in a way we all gain and we all rise, we all thrive.
Yeah, thank you. It kind of plays into the old saying of if a rising tide brings up all boats. Absolutely. Do you have a similar sentiment?
Yeah, I think I was very much the same. I was Give to Gain, and then you go on the website and it's a whole bunch of people going like this, and I was like, are they really asking women to give more? We do a lot. We do a lot of giving already. But the more I read into it and the more I thought about it, I was like, this is how I operate. It is really hard to get me to say no to an idea. James often is like, Brianne, we have to say no sometimes. But I genuinely want to help other people. And the more people we help, the more projects go ahead, the more things get built, the more people rise to the top. And it's an abundance mindset. You can make it better for everyone. It's not only a one versus many.
Yes, absolutely. And for you, Alicia, with bobsled, I know it's typically been a male-dominated sport. The first time there was women in the Olympics was 2002, I believe.
Correct.
So is giving to gain relevant in your sport as well and what you do now?
For sure, and I think my example actually comes to a lot of how I operated as an athlete. And I felt like I had this platform that I could really make a difference in our communities. So whether it was volunteering to be a classroom champions mentor or being a kid sport ambassador, and for me it was sharing my story of my trials and my triumphs and being involved. And I actually being an athlete mentor and speaking to often little kids, but often like kids that are all the way up to high school age. And the goal was always to give, but it was unexpected how much I gained from that. And even I'll use one quick example of I had a really big injury in 2019 in a year that we were hosting the world champions and championships and on a home track where I was expected to do really well. And I definitely thought that it was kind of the end for me to shut it down. And but through the whole year, I had been goal setting with a classroom locally, and I had a grade 5 student say, well, that wasn't what your goal was, so why would you quit on your goal? And I'm like, well, you got me there. So so again, it became back into the resilience of, well, now we got to get through this injury and figure out how to come back stronger.
It's like what Claire said earlier about pivoting. Yeah. Jane, how about you? Anything to add there?
Similar theme, and I'll probably keep it quick so we can get to some more, but I think, yeah, definitely something Dolores said in the opening really stands out. Like, I mean, the more you give, the more you get, right? And, you know, I'm echoing you. I first went, well, you're just supposed to give freely. You're not supposed to give wanting something in return, but I think we've all seen that. Like, you give out of the spirit of giving, and it comes back tenfold, usually some way or another. And yeah, definitely experience that through the work environment. You know, we're all here because somebody gave or did something for us, and it's important to make sure we're giving back to that next generation of people that are coming through. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think a theme that I've noticed there was the importance of mentorship. For anyone out there looking to gain a mentor in their field or their sport, what advice could you give them about how to go about that?
Ask. Honestly, find someone that you think you could benefit from, and don't be afraid to ask, right? Like, a lot of times I think people are hesitant or scared, but I think many people out there are definitely willing to put in that time and effort with someone who shows that little bit of initiative to take that step and ask that question.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one.
To your point, like asking, but I think actually seeking it, and I'm seeing it now more when I'm kind of post-sport and in the work environment. And actually just today I had a girl over at the Flames that's working with one of our associate teams ask if we could have lunch together just because she's really interested. She was a hockey player, and now she's not really done with being a sport, and she wanted to ask me some questions. So I think, and I did it throughout when I was entering the workforce, and it's actually led to the position I had today, was I entered the industry and I made sure I set meetings with as many people as I could, whether they were working for some of the leagues that I had interest in or other teams across Canada and the US, and just asking for a coffee chat, 30 minutes of your time, let me hear your story, and let me hear what your advice is, and maybe it will lead to you not pursuing a particular career in my case.
Yeah, I think just building off of those pieces, being conscious of people's time when you're asking for mentorship is always important, and being aware of what your ask is. Are you looking for somebody to have a lunch with you and answer some questions one time? Are you looking for coffees on a quarterly basis? And what does that kind of look like going forward? Kind of setting that out at the start is helpful. And being realistic in that expectations. I've had a few reach out for like, can we have weekly coffees? No, we sure can't. That's not feasible, but I'm happy to have a coffee and then we'll see. Or I can connect you with somebody else, but I think just being aware of what your ask is upfront is helpful.
Yeah, I don't want to add too much because those are all really great things, but I think that mentorship sometimes feels like it's this very formal thing, but it's funny, you were talking about like making sure you lay out those expectations, but when I first heard the question, I didn't go that route. I was just thinking about meeting for coffee, like casual things like that, and I have never had anyone ever say no to me. Like if I've asked, can we go for coffee or go for lunch? I've never heard a no. And maybe it's because I didn't set it up to be like, can we do this monthly? But I really come back to something that my dear old dad always said to me, and he says, you can't win if you don't send in. So if you don't ask the question, you don't ever know what that answer will be.
No, I love that. And it just goes back to what you mentioned, Claire, in your talk about the importance of the community around you, and having someone that believes in you, especially when you're starting out and trying something new. Which leads me to my next question. When facing obstacles, you kind of talked a little bit about this already, but what mindset guides you? And are there habits and strategies that you use on a day-to-day basis to help you continuing going forward?
I don't want to repeat my whole talk. So we'll go to when I talk about thoughts, actually. So that's one piece that I don't cover. So it's nice that I can kind of talk about it here. But one part of my talk, when I talk about controlling your thoughts, your perspective, gratitude, mindset, those are all three really important things when it comes to moving forward and getting through challenges. But the one that I like the most that really sticks in my mind, and I have to keep coming back to it over and over, is the concept and shifting your mindset to what if it all works out? We never go there. As humans, we go to worst case scenario. We never think about best case scenario. I feel like it's probably a bit of a protection thing in Darwinism, survival of the fittest. Like you will die if you always think that everything's going to go in your favor. But what if it all works out? And that's always where I try to go. I guess I didn't share that Sloan is in remission. I know I put it at the end, but I never really make that very clear. Sloan relapsed last April, and after relapse, the chance of survival drops below 10%, which is really very low. And if I went along my day and I was just in the woe is me, the sadness, my child might die, there's a 90% chance that she will die, then I would live a terrible life. So I've learned to adopt the mindset, what if it all works out? And that's what I try to carry through my day. So that's how the biggest way I get through my challenges.
That's a beautiful sentiment. Thank you. Do you have a similar perspective or something different?
I think I attended an International Women's Day's breakfast on Monday, and they talked a lot about confidence. Women generally don't have the same level of confidence that our male counterparts do. And so finding people who champion you, looking at that, who you're surrounding yourself with, when you're experiencing a challenge and you're wanting to dwell in the negative, finding people who go, yeah, but we can spend a couple minutes talking about that, but and how do you look at that positive light, and making sure you're not surrounding yourself with people who want to live in that negative space.
Was there a time in your life where that happened and it was very important for you to have someone able to champion you in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few jobs that have been like that, where it's things have gone real sideways, and it's finding somebody who goes, you can move on. I can help you move on. Let's look at what that looks like. Let's look at the career transition and let's go. But it is super important because, especially in a workplace, if you're in a bad workplace, you can really spend a lot of time in the negative, and you can be surrounded by people who are all in that same crappy situation, and making sure you're looking outside of your typical support, I guess, in those cases, really, really invaluable. My career wouldn't be where it is if I hadn't paid attention to those champions.
That's a really good point, and self-doubt can really creep in if you don't have those people in your life. How about you, Alicia?
So I actually credit this quote to Ashton Eaton, who's a decathlete, but then I found out it wasn't him, it was Nelson Mandela. But in my own Instagram bio, I have, like, first thing about me is challenge acceptor, and that's because of a mindset. And I know you part of your talk is about accepting a new mindset. And the quote that I live by is, in approaching any situation that could end really poorly, it's great because I'm either going to win something or I'm going to learn something. So if I don't win, and I learn. So that's something that I think is equally as valuable. And when I was competing in bobsled and I was going down a track and I was just learning how to drive, I crashed a lot, like a lot. There was a year where I just told myself that every crash was a lesson learned, and I was going to learn from that mistake and never make that mistake again. And eventually, going down that track, I stopped running out of mistakes to make. So when you're able to kind of apply that to life, and it's like, you know what, we're all going to make mistakes, and you're not growing if you're not making mistakes. And that's where if you really take the time to reflect on that moment and learn from it, that's how you grow, and that's how you become more resilient to more challenges.
Yeah, that's a great point. Go ahead, Jane.
Can I share my favorite re-quote?
Yeah, for sure.
You miss 100% of shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. Sorry. Yeah, for me, actually, a really good book for the readers out there on mindset. I can't remember the author. I think it's Carol Dweck, but it's Fixed versus Growth Mindset. That's a really good book. I think if you want to come at, how do I approach mindset? Like fixed, it's pretty much what it sounds like, but fixed, you don't think you can do anything outside of essentially the box you're in. Growth is more along, what Alicia's sharing is you're always pushing the boundaries, asking why, understanding that, failure is learning, that's how you move forward, right? So I'd recommend that book for, anyone who wants to read it. I think it's a great one. I think another thing, like you mentioned, like obstacles, I think one big thing with obstacles, again, is sometimes they can seem so overwhelming that you kind of just get paralyzed. And I think couple important things there that help me is to always keep that end goal in mind, right? I think that'll help guide how you're going to tackle them. And then back to that, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? Like, don't think you're going to be able to get through that obstacle all at once. What's the next smallest thing I can do to move myself forward to that end goal?
Yeah, bite-sized tasks. When you were speaking, Alicia, it just kind of reminded me of sometimes even when you're going through something hard, and I thought this with you, Claire, as well, when you're talking that someone acknowledging that what you're feeling is completely normal given the circumstances can be a big mind shift. I do martial arts, and in my first MMA fight, I was completely terrified, and I was having nightmares like every night about getting knocked out and having serious brain damage. And eventually I was like, you know what? I need to talk to somebody about this because I'm just suffering in silence right now. And I went to my coach and I said, listen, this is what's going on. I don't know how to deal with this. Like, I think I'm alone. I don't think anyone else has this level of fear. And he was like, Steph, if you didn't feel that way, you would be insane because you'd either be a psycho or you wouldn't be acknowledging the way that you actually feel about it. And he was like, yeah, I've coached UFC fighters, and the night before their fight, they're in the back room crying for their mommies, And I'm like, okay, it was oddly comforting. I was like, okay, this is normal, and even the highest performers feel fear. So that's really important. I love that. Okay, moving it towards Women's Day, how can our industry be more intentional about creating an environment that is fair, equitable, and supportive of women, would you say? And since you have the mic, Jane, I'll ask you first.
There's lots of things I think we can do. I think one thing we can do is, one thing I always try to do is just make sure I hire the best person for the role. That's it. And I feel like, if we all kind of approach hiring, promoting, growing our workspace through that lens, it becomes the place that it should be. I think that's how we can be the most equal, is just try to go blind, who's the best person, regardless of anything else for this role.
Yeah, and having like predetermined criteria and then hiring, like merit-based hiring. Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Now that I work on the business side of sports, so I work for Calgary Sport and Entertainment, which is a great organization. I think they do a great job of recognizing the women that in the roles that they have. We have a lot of women on the business ops side of many of our teams. However, we only have 5 teams, and they're all men's teams. So there's a big shift, I think, in the industry in the rise of women's sports. It's worldwide, it's global, it's a growing movement. Actually, most of the sponsorship dollars that I'm fighting for our teams, we're seeing a huge shift of companies choosing to invest in women's sport. And as a former women athlete, I'm so thrilled about it. And I can't wait we have our women's soccer team that launched last year. If you haven't been to a game yet, please go and support them. They're awesome. Not part of one of our organizations, but I'm still like rooting for them and a big fan, and just showing up, I think, is one of the biggest things that we can do. And then hopefully the PWHL is actually doing a flyby stop over here on April 1st. If anyone wants to check out some really good women's hockey, there's still some tickets available.
My daughter already told me we're going to be going. Our team is 14 people right now and only 3 males. Yeah. So thanks. Yeah. Merit-based hiring, everyone is qualified to do their jobs, but we look at fit. We look at personality. I think everyone can grow into their roles. My team of lovely women who came here with me today, we were walking over and I was talking about these panel questions are really different than the normal panels that I'm part of. And they were like, well, how are you going to answer these things, Brianne? And I was like, I don't really know. I said, I think a lot of how I approach it is there's a lot of opportunities. And I expect my team to think of them as opportunities too. We're all learning and growing and doing different things all the time. I expect people to be accountable for their work. But that doesn't mean you have to clock in at a certain time. If anyone has things that come up, which we know women do more often, we're dealing with kids, we're dealing with house flooding, and I will have messages from our team saying, this has come up and can I take the afternoon, or I have a kid at home with me. Like, yeah, you do you. Having more flexibility in the workforce does a lot more to encourage more women to be there. I mean, even Laura on our team gets to be part-time. She gets to be able to pick up her kids every day, and that's a huge benefit in keeping her involved, and she's so much smarter than me, and we couldn't do our jobs without her. So it's how do you meet people where they're at and know at some points she might want to work more or she might want to work less. It's but important to get all those different ideas and inputs in, and so yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, especially with remote working and being an option now, and if you are, excelling at your job, having that flexibility, that's phenomenal. And I would imagine I would actually want to try and work harder if someone was giving me that flexibility at work.
There's only been maybe 2 people who've taken advantage of the flexible work. And it was 50-50 male and women. I do think most of our team, because we hire based on personality and fit, it's people who want to grow and who want to learn new things and who are okay being adaptable and jumping into things. So it's not underachievers. And that doesn't have to do with gender necessarily.
I don't need to answer if you want to keep going because of time.
Okay, yeah, sure, absolutely.
I don't know. I can, but I also know how this works. I see Lindsay looking at her too. No,
we're making it through the questions.
Yes.
Okay, so another question. This kind of you kind of touched on this a little bit about opportunities for women. In our industry, where are you seeing the greatest opportunities for women, specifically in leadership roles? And Claire, you can answer this too with your background.
Oh my goodness. I feel like I need to pass this on. I was like, well, our industry. I know I'm in geomatics. Okay, so I do want to say, I guess it's kind of related to the last question too. I work at a company called GeoVera. We're a surveying and geomatics firm, and we launched the company 6 years ago, like right now. I remember starting on March 11th, and then the world shut down. It was crazy times launching a new company, and I'm very proud to say that half of our leadership team is female, which is really incredible. And the amount of flexibility that I have been given, and rightfully so, over the last couple of years has been a huge help, huge support. So I think that just, I'm going to pass it on because this one I feel like I can't answer. So I'll pass it on to somebody else who can answer about this specific industry.
No, thank you. That was insightful.
I think kind of leading off of what I just said, thinking it of as thinking of things as opportunities. I have a hard time saying no. I encourage other people to also have that same hard time saying no. You get voluntold into things a fair bit in our company. Embrace your white male confidence and think you can do anything. That's how they approach the world. I encourage more women to think of it the same. There's nothing you can't learn about and excel in eventually if you want it. And that's how my career has been built entirely. A lot of people telling me, oh, you're going to take on this now, and you learn and you do it. More women need to be more comfortable with that.
No, I love that, especially what you just said about previously about women. On average, we experience more self-doubt and we question ourselves more. So having that is very important. Thank you.
There's also a stat that women will not apply for a role unless they meet 100% of the criteria, where men will apply if they hit one thing. Yeah, exactly. And I think if I was ever in a position, I've been, as an athlete, we had a leadership team, all male, and I remember constantly being told what the cap was on my potential from people who had never even met me before. Which is just absurd. So I've kind of taken that screw you attitude and applied that to my career now outside of sport, because I've realized, and I preach this, that there's whoever your leaders are, and you don't always get to pick them. Just coming from a league that had an incredible leader who had been there for a long time, but really was not willing to change this old boys club mentality in 2020, and being able to move through, and you have a lot of new and fresh blood and faces, and being able to give women a voice of what really matters in a changing sport demographic right now. So I think even though we have no female leaders at CSAC, I believe that there's an opportunity for one to get in there one day. Hopefully it's me.
What do you want me to answer? What was the question?
Where do you see the greatest opportunities for women in leadership within our industry?
Within our industry. I honestly think I'm going to stick with my theme I said. Like, honestly, what you're good at is what you'll be a good leader at, right? So it's your unique ability, but echoing what these ladies said, tap into it, have that confidence, go for whatever you're good at, and that's where your best opportunity lies. And again, if the hiring managers are truly looking for the right person for the right role with those right characteristics, that will be you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm going to, in the interest of time, move towards our questions from the audience. We should have a few here. Just makes sense. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's just read through these quickly. Okay. Okay. Can I read it again? Sorry. Yeah, no. Okay. What is an example of inequality you have faced in your life because you were a woman? What is an example of inequality you have faced in your life because you're a woman?
You want to go first? I can take it. Oh, I can take this one. I remember at one of my previous companies, not the company I'm at with right now, I won't say what one it was, but I remember coming back from my mat leave, and I think it was from my first maternity leave, and I remember going into that, I had been back to work for several months, was really proving myself, had stepped up into a bigger responsibility, and I remember going to my VP at the time and asking for a raise and for a job title change, promotion, because I was very much deserving of it. And I knew that, I was confident, I went in, and I remember him referencing his wife who had a second child and then never returned to work. And he said that to me. He was like, well, I don't know, you could have another baby and then be like my wife, we'll call her Jane, and never go back to work. So no. And that was the response that I got. I should have gone to HR, I did not. But anyways, that was my and that has stuck with me forever.
Wow, definitely breaching some HR.
Yes, very much so. Like I said, I'm not mentioning the company, but it was wild.
Oh my God, that's awful. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that.
Once again, not mentioning the company because this is a sketchy one to, yeah. I had a similar position in that somebody had left the organization and I assumed all of their job plus my job, and I went and asked for a raise to not even make as much as this person had just left. And I was told, well, we'll see how good you make my tea.
No.
Right.
What was your response?
I think I just turned and left. Yeah, and then I think it was a couple weeks later, I went for a beer with James and been at the Knowledge Center since.
One door closes, another opens, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was, that was a rough conversation.
How about you, Alicia?
I'll go sport related on this one. When I was going onto the World Cup tour for full time, I was the Canada 2 female pilot at the time, and we had 3 men's teams and 3 women's teams, and Team Canada only had enough money to buy 4 new sleds. And a month before season, we knew that we were getting the 4 sleds, and in my head, I had kind of just assumed that I was getting this new sled because why would they not go 2 to the men's program and 2 to the women's program? And we had this meeting in this dark, dingy room at the BNTC Training Center, which at Winsport, and the Wi-Fi wasn't working, and so I remember them saying, okay, so Canada 1 female, you're gonna get this sled, and then Canada 1, 2, 3 men, you're getting these sleds. And I was like, how did you guys come to that decision? And they said, okay, so the Canada 3 men's pilot has more points, which means points you get from how you finish in races from the season prior. And I was like, no, he doesn't. I have more points. And we couldn't get Wi-Fi to prove it. So we had to pull up the stats. So I remember this being like, coaches left the room. I'm like outside trying to load my phone. And they came back in the room and we had it. And I had 10 more points than the Canada 3 men's pilot. So they left the room again. And I looked at my mail, the Canada 3 men's pilot, who's a dear friend of mine. And I said, this isn't about you, but this is me fighting for my chance because I'm going to compete against the best pilots in the world. And if I'm driving this old sled, my true skills are not going to be a great reflection of all the work that I've done to be able to earn this position. He's like, I get it, I'd be doing the same thing. So coaches came back in and said, sorry, Alicia, like we're still giving the sled to the men's program because we just think that they have a better chance of success than our women's program does. So I think I flipped a table on the way out and I said, screw you guys, I'm getting my own. And thanks to Scovan. I didn't actually think that was gonna happen, but within a couple months I had fundraised through sponsorship enough to do that. And they if I would have been in my old sled, they expected me to come between 12th and 15th in most of our World Cup races. And that first race that I had in my brand new sled that showed up a month late for season, but in time for the first World Cup, my teammate and I came 4th.
Wow. Yeah, that's an incredible story. Just using your skills with networking and getting sponsorships to still be able to have a better sled and compete to the level that you know you're capable of. That's amazing. Anything there, Jane? Nothing? Yeah. Like a couple of rude comments here and there. That's about it. Yeah. Well, we can. I have one question to sort of to bring everything together to wrap up today. What is one way each of us can practice gift to gain and resilience starting tomorrow? Or what is a key message you'd like to leave here today with us all thinking about?
You want to start? Just because you didn't answer that one.
I've heard it a few times. I think just that whole give to gain theme, if we're going back to it, a few different industry events I've been at over the last year, is really just trying to remember what this industry has afforded us to this point in our lives, right? And then how can we give back in return, Because I think, honestly, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I'm like, when can I retire and get out of this place? And I'm not that old. But I've heard people significantly older than me go, okay, look at what this industry has afforded you as a lifestyle, as a career, as this, that, and just make sure we're thankful for that and really putting in that time to give back to that next generation as we go forward.
I think it's just going to stick with you've all said it, is we don't give with the intention to gain anything. So I think being able to be thoughtful and reflective when you do unexpectedly gain something, and just that's almost what's inspiring to keep on giving. I think there's a lot of times where you're surprised about something and you're like, great, that worked out well. And then you kind of move on, but you don't, if you actually take the time to reflect, and whether it's a gratitude piece and being like, okay, so this energy that I gave out actually brought this back in. It's a way to kind of reflect and move forward and help you continue to be inspired to give more.
The Jane Goodall quote that you put up is one of my favorites, and I can never remember all the words in the right order. I have it on my phone already. However, because I can never remember the words, I like to say, do the things, make it better. Is that I can remember. Those are simple words that it's my phone screensaver, it's my whole team knows. Just do the things, make it better. Doing the things can be as big or small as you're capable of on that day. And that's how I like to think of the give to gain, is there's not every day I can't give, or I can't give as much as I might be able to on some days. But as long as I'm continuing to do the things and make it better, it'll get better for everyone.
Oh my goodness, those are all such good answers. And Brianne shared that she had the questions ahead of time, and I feel like everybody did and I did not. So here I am, just coming up with this stuff. Okay, good. Woo. I thought you had like a week to plan your answers. Yeah, I think for me, it's just going back to the idea of community and really surrounding yourself with people who will lift and inspire, empower you, and knowing that you are on the other end of that too. I had a lot of that coming in through my journey, and now it's my turn and my opportunity to give back. And that doesn't have to be financial giving. It doesn't have to be time giving. You can give in other ways. And I think now it's just a matter of paying it forward. So when someone gives to you, you can give back, and then we all gain in return.
That's awesome. And that was improvised. That's amazing. Thank you.
There you go. All of mine were improvised.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, ladies. That was a really wonderful discussion, and I think we all took something important away from it. I'll move it along to, who is it? Juanita. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. So as we wrap up today's event, I want to take a moment to thank everyone who made the celebration possible. To our speakers and panelists, Jane, Claire, Stephanie, Brianne, and Alicia, thank you so much for your honesty, your insights, and willingness to share your experience with all of us. Sorry, I'm nervous. Conversations like this is what inspire change, growth, and connection. So thank you as well to everyone who has joined us. Taking the time to come together, listen, and learn from one another is an important part of building stronger workplaces and communities. We are also incredibly grateful to our sponsors who helped make this event possible. CCS Knowledge Center, Interpred, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, group, League Projects, PTW Energy Services, and Spartan Controls. Your partnership and commitment to supporting women in our industry helps create opportunities for dialogue, connection, and progress. And then finally, thank you to the team at Scovan, who worked behind the scenes to bring this event together. We hope that today leaves you feeling inspired, energized, and connected, and that you carry these conversations forward beyond just today. And then, last part of my message, please do not drink and drive. We have some taxi shits. Please come up to me and ask for one if you need to be. But thanks again, guys.